It's 6:01. We would like to determine that a quorum is present, and Trustee Thornton notified us she will not be attending this evening. For those who are able, if you would like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent prayer, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you remain standing for a moment of silent prayer? Thank you. The first item on the agenda, we have two public hearings, one public hearing for two items. The first public hearing is for the support for the 2026 Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application and the support for 2026 Michigan Department of Natural Resources Land and Water Conservation Fund grant application. So I am going to declare the public hearing open at 6:03. John, would you like to give an overview?
Yes, John Hines, Municipal Service Director. So I would be more than happy to give a brief overview of the public hearings for the potential applications for the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant and the Trust Fund grant. As the board knows, I've come over the last few months to bring Spicer Group forward to help assist the township for both these grant applications for North Bay Park. As I worked with them and they updated an engineer's estimate for what it would be to renovate the pathway from both the Huron Street and Grove Road parking lot, the boardwalk, and the 6 bridges. The cost due to inflation, due to just materials in general, and the scope of work for such a large area have risen. So in talking with the DNR, it was decided it would be best to split it into 2 grants for the same project. Because we can come from 2 different entry points, one on Huron Street, one on Grove Road, if we make both of those universally acceptable, we'll, one, of course, renovate a pathway that's not been touched in 30 years, but 2, it'll be phase 1 of a further project that we can do the actual existing boardwalk and bridges, and they'll be universally accessible, which will help us in further grant funding down the road. The trust fund grant would be a 40% or 50% match of $400,000 from the township and from the MDNR for a grand total project cost of $800,000, including the work and engineering. And it would renovate basically the asphalt pathway from the Grove Road parking lot through the fishing pier and the first bridge along I-94 and end at the first island before it hits the bridges. So that would encompass that entire area. Thank you. I was going to say there is an accompanying map that shows, I believe that is the pathway in red. Then the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant would be everything from the Huron Street pathway. It would be repaving the asphalt, fixing the existing switchback trail to make it universally accessible, all the way down to the first observation deck of the boardwalk. This would also include, there's a section of the wooden walkway that goes down to the boardwalk and then goes north from the existing pathway through the woods that is currently sinking. It's constantly an issue with the weather that we've had over the past week. I'm sure it is, I would say, 50% underwater at this time. So the goal of this would be to make that universally accessible down to the observation deck, replacing the wood of the observation deck, which would start the boardwalk project for the next phase, and then raise that wooden walkway to be, I don't think it'll be level with the observation deck, but it'll raise the grade to reduce or remove the sinking problem that we're having and make the grade from that wooden walkway to the observation deck universally accessible.
All right, thank you. So what we are going to do is we're going to have one public hearing on the first resolution. We're going to bring it to a close and then open it up again for the second one, just in case for technical reasons you shouldn't do them together.
Oh, sure, of course.
I'm not sure, but better to be safe than sorry,
Yeah.
right? So the public hearing is open for the first one, which is Resolution 2026-03. Are there any public comments on this? This is for the boardwalk for North Bay Park. It's in its original state and greatly needs to be repaired, so both of these grants will do that.
What's the time frame on the projects once and if they're accepted and being started and completed?
Sure. Although it is similar, as Supervisor Stumbo said, we'll do one by one, but the application deadline right now is April 1st of this year, so in 2 weeks' time, that's when the initial applications for MDNR grants are due. During that time, between April 1st and October 1st, the MDNR takes its time to review, do site visits, and do any questions that they might have. So in that time with the questions after the site visits, entities like ourselves are able to submit supplemental information that might not have been present in the first application. So from that time, after the October deadline, they do the final scoring. And usually about the middle to the end of December is when we'll get our grade and know if it's going to be recommended for award. So recommended for award does not mean that we were awarded the funds. We find out that officially about 4 to 6 months after that recommendation. From that point, depending on if an engineering firm is committed to the project, you will put together the engineering, official engineering, the specs, go out to bid for construction, which takes a few months, and then from there, depending on the time frame of when all this starts, you would start construction the following fall, or following that fall, or the following spring.
So 2028, John?
Yes, 2028.
Thank you.
Either the end of 2027 or the beginning of 2028.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other public comments on it? Hearing none, Clerk Swanson?
Resolution of support for the 2026 DNR Trust Fund Grant application, whereas this board is committed to providing quality parkland and trails to its residents and visitors and supports the submission of an application titled North Bay Park Trail, Grove Road Access to the DNR Trust Fund for development of a universally accessible trail boardwalk off Grove Road at North Bay Park. And whereas the proposed application is supported by the Township's 5-year approved Parks and Recreation Plan, which identifies the improvements of the North Bay Park Boardwalk Trail as a priority project, and whereas this board acknowledges it has received a cost estimate in the form of an engineer's probable cost statement and anticipates the Grove Road access improvements at the North Bay Park Boardwalk Trail in accordance with the specification in the grant application in the amount of $800,000. Now therefore be it resolved that this board hereby authorizes submission of an MDNR Trust Fund Grant application in the amount of $400,000 and further resolves to make available its financial obligation amount of $400,000, 50% of a total of $800,000 project costs during the 2026-2027 fiscal year. So moved.
Motion Swanson, support Rowe. Is there discussion?
Yes, I have a question.
Trustee Newman?
This grant application, how long will it take before there's any sort of, what I want to say, resolution from MDNR? Is it? Yeah, MDNR, yeah.
So we would know, as long as we follow the process, submit in April, submit any supplemental in October, we'll know by December if we're to be recommended in 2027.
The process will not get started until 2027?
Correct.
Okay, so we'll know before then?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Any other questions or comment? I'm going to close the public hearing. I forgot to do that at 6:11. All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Now I'm going to open the second public hearing at 6:11 PM for the support for the 2025 Michigan Department of Natural Resources Land and Water Conservation Funding, which is a grant application. John has already given a presentation. Is there any public comments on this grant? Again, this is for the boardwalk and North Bay Park, from the city of Ypsilanti off of Grove all the way to Huron Street and where the bridges are, and it's in its original state, and it's in need of repair and replacement. It's probably one of the most heavily used parks that we have, and people come from all over. So I hope we can get this and get these improvements. Hearing no comments. Clerk Swanson?
Resolution 2026-04, resolution of support for the 2026 MDNR Land and Water Conservation Fund application, whereas this board is committed to providing quality parkland and trails to its residents and visitors, and supports the submission of an application titled North Bay Park Boardwalk Trail to the Land and Water Conservation Fund for improvements to the boardwalk at North Bay Park, and whereas the proposed application is supported by the Township's 5-year approved Parks and Recreation Plan, which identifies improvements to the North Bay Park Boardwalk Trail as a priority project, and whereas this board acknowledges it has received a cost estimate in the form of an engineer's probable cost statement and anticipates the improvements to the North Bay Park Boardwalk Trail in accordance with specification in the grant application in the amount of $1 million. Now therefore be it resolved that this board hereby authorizes submission of an MDNR Land and Water Conservation Fund grant application in the amount of $500,000, and further resolves to make available its financial obligation amount of $500,000, 50% of a total of a total $1 million project cost during the 2026-2027 fiscal year. So moved.
Motion Swanson? Support. Support Rowe? Any discussion? I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:14. We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. The next item is to motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion Eldridge,
Support Peterson.
support Peterson. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next is a consent agenda. We have the minutes of the March 3rd, 2026 regular meeting, statements and checks, treasurer's report. And we need a motion would be in order.
So moved.
Motion Eldridge,
Support Peterson.
support Peterson. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item is the attorney report. Mr. Winters.
Madam Chairperson. Try again. Madam Chairperson, this is the time when I have been given the Township Board and the public a current status update in regards to what has been foisted upon this community by the federal government, state of Michigan, University of Michigan, and Los Alamos, as they continue to press forward with their plans to construct 2 data centers, which, in my opinion, have put a big bullseye target on this entire township. And I say that, I don't say that just for any type of impact beyond that. I believe it's the truth. And the sad part of this scenario is that as you take time, each time we have 2 weeks in between our meetings, you gain more information. And sometimes that information is even more troubling than what we had learned the 2 weeks prior. Now, back on October 3rd, during my report, I advised the board at that time, and I'm looking at my actual notes from that meeting, that I was beginning to have very, very serious reservations as to whether Los Alamos should locate anywhere in this township, and for that matter, the state of Michigan. At that time, I began to raise the issue that the very presence of Los Alamos constitutes a high-value target. It's a high-value target not because I say it is. It's a high-value target because of what is said by every nuclear scientist, research analyst, those who basically make their living by providing intelligence information to the government, that Los Alamos, which produces the nuclear weapons, is a high-value target. And make no mistake that a data center, which also provides the necessary research in order for Los Alamos facility in New Mexico to produce the plutonium pits, which is what is needed to activate a nuclear missile. Make no mistake that that facility of Los Alamos, if it's located here in this township, will by its very nature constitute a high-value target. Now, back on November 3rd, on March the 3rd, excuse me, the war in Iran had just happened that weekend. It had commenced that weekend. And as I brought to the attention my concern about what could happen with Los Alamos locating here, it somewhat came to fruition after our board meeting when we learned that the Iranian government had launched a number of drones, at data centers operated and owned by Amazon. Now, these data centers are commercial data centers. These are ones that store information to help people do their banking and utilities, but they took out 3 Amazon facilities, which has sent a wake-up message throughout the world as to how are we going to protect these data centers, which are critical to storing information. But this is not a commercial data center. A Los Alamos data center is going to be the brains of the operation for nuclear modeling, nuclear weaponry. We were told at the very beginning by U of M's Vice President of Public Relations, Government Relations, that they were going to build, in his words, the biggest, baddest, and fastest computers in the world. That in of itself is what makes those data centers high-value targets, both U of M and, for that matter, Los Alamos. These are not just warehouses of storing commercial data. These are not an office building. In the modern world, these data centers constitute power. Artificial intelligence is power. Supercomputers are power. And when something becomes that important, it becomes a target. Why would the state of Michigan induce Los Alamos to build a data center on the banks of the Huron River by guaranteeing Los Alamos a $100 million grant that was awarded to them through the University of Michigan without even having the decency to contact the leadership of the township and its citizens in regards to whether or not that was a good idea. People talk about transparency, and they throw that word around like loose change in a drawer. Everybody says that we want transparency, but you really don't. They really don't. Because if they were transparent, they would have come to this township back in 2024, 2025, and said, here's what we're going to consider doing. What do you think? Instead of doing that, they had an Ann Arbor-based organization called Ann Arbor Spark, which is basically an economic arm for the University of Michigan, support their application, and therefore they've been awarded $100 million to build this data center. The governor is 1,000% behind this data center being built here for Los Alamos. The federal government is 1,000% behind it coming to the township. We have done everything as a township board to bring this issue to the public. And yet, when we asked the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners, even though we asked them back in August to consider our resolution requesting that they do not build that data center on the banks of the Huron River, when they had a chance at their last board meeting, which was, again, 2 weeks ago, they tabled a resolution. This is the same county board of commissioners. They will pass resolutions involving every international event around the world. Even though they have no jurisdiction, they'll pass a resolution pertaining to the Gaza Strip. They'll pass a resolution pertaining to any kind of world events, even though their district encompasses Washtenaw County. But yet, when asked to pass a resolution against Los Alamos and against U of M for building these data centers in the township, they table that. And it's kind of interesting on some of the county commissioners' comments as to why they say that. I don't know what it's going to take for people to understand that we have been talking about this publicly for 8 months. We have had 2 public informational meetings that were filled to capacity at each time we've had a public meeting. But yet one of the county commissioners was quoted as saying that the township needs to be more transparent. That somehow the truth is that, we have not been transparent with our residents. And that U of M, we're looking to them to show leadership. We know that U of M is given special status by being a state university where they don't have to comply with our zoning laws. They don't have to come before this board for permission. They don't even pay taxes. They can go where they want to go. And so I don't know how Commissioner Sanders could say right now that somehow it's the township not being transparent. But she goes on to say, again, it's hard to understand why she would say something like this. And she goes, unless I'm missing something, we don't have the power to stop this. No matter how much people may like it, it's not up to the county commissioners. It's up to the municipality. So I'm going to stop there with the data centers. It's not up to the municipality. And I recognize that the county commissioners may feel the same sense of powerlessness as we do. But unless you're going to be united at the township level, at the county level, and at the state level, you're not going to get anywhere. We're dealing with the University of Michigan, the Department of War, and Los Alamos. We even had one county commissioner even say that one of the reasons why the resolution that we asked them to consider was going to be tabled, he said that, Commissioner Hodge, I would also add that if we are going to try to do some sort of resolution that was encompassing a potential financial issues related to the University of Michigan, it would make a third of our board in a position where they would have to abstain because that is the employer for a third of the board, including myself. I'm going to make a motion that we postpone this to the March 18th meeting. Well, first of all, this township board, like any board, has a right to recuse themselves or to abstain only if there is a financial benefit to a board member or a financial loss to a board member. You don't simply just say, I get to abstain because I happen to hold a position within the University of Michigan that employs tens of thousands of individuals. If you're looking for a way to avoid not voting, you could say, well, a third of us are employed by the University of Michigan. That doesn't help the argument as to why you won't take a position. The real reason that nobody wants to take on this issue, and it's embarrassing to say this, because I think as growing up in this area, in the shadows of both the University of Michigan and Eastern Michigan University, we always want to believe that we were very fortunate to live in a county that had two great universities. And you have a situation now where the University of Michigan has made a deal, they've cut a deal with the Department of War under Trump, President Trump, where they have agreed that they're going to not only eliminate their DEI program, which they've already done, they've also agreed that they are going to eliminate, and you have to, again, bear with me for a second, this is an article. They've agreed to cease and end their partnerships with the PhD Project, which was an organization that strives to help students from historically marginalized backgrounds achieve business doctorates. Now think about that for a second. You have a university that was engaged up until now with a project, an organization that was going to ensure or try to assist students that come from historically marginalized backgrounds, which is Ypsilanti Township, we're part of that, help them achieve business doctorates. They're going to cease that program because the Trump administration said that agency unlawfully limits eligibility based on the race of participants. So while they're willing to cease their efforts to help students from historically marginalized backgrounds to achieve a doctorate degree in business, they're willing to put the most highly visible valued target in a marginalized area in Ypsilanti Township where our residents are still struggling to recover from what occurred when the General Motors plants closed, when the housing recession occurred, when all the things that continue to happen to this community, everyone in Ypsilanti Township. I was born and raised here. I went to Will Run schools. I know firsthand what it's like growing up in this area. So you're going to right now end a program, and in return, what do you receive? Well, right after they agreed to do that, the Department of War, remember at one time it was called the Department of Defense. Now it's called the Department of War. They've also agreed that the University of Michigan would become a partner with the Department of War in regards to a program that will advise the Pentagon in regards to how they can also assist them in their ongoing efforts to Department of War to train and the next generation of leaders for that purpose. Ironically, the Department of War severed a number of the same relationships with all of the Ivy League schools, Yale, Harvard, MIT, all the schools that U of M always wanted to be associated with, And now we have 2 schools in this state that wants to be associated with the Department of War. That is University of Michigan and Hillsdale College. That's what the University of Michigan has turned into by basically selling their soul to the Department of War. Now, getting back to what is going on right now, there's no question right now that this facility, if built in this township, gives us a high-value target. And according to all the information I've been able to get my hands on, we are considered to be a Tier 1 level threat. And that Tier 1 level threat is because of the computational modeling and the plutonium pit research that's going to be conducted by Los Alamos. They've also pointed out that unlike Los Alamos, located in Los Alamos, New Mexico, the location in Ypsilanti Township is much more vulnerable because we don't have some of the natural geographic protection that they have in New Mexico. We don't have deep canyons or defensive type barriers. We also are more vulnerable because we're located to large population centers, be it Detroit and other surrounding areas here in Wayne, Washtenaw County. We have highway accessibility. We are close proximity to a major airport, Detroit Metro. We have our hydroelectric dam over here on Bridge Road. We have the Yucca facility that serves water to hundreds of thousands of people throughout Washtenaw County. The drone capability is not a joke, folks. They've also pointed out, in fact, right now, the United States and Israel, in spite of all their high technology that they're bringing to bear on the war in Iran, they've actually had to request that Ukrainian send their top advisors over there to help them understand how best to detect and destroy these drone attacks. Now, they pointed out in these articles that a facility such as the one proposed for the township is very much subject to drone attack because a drone can be launched from nearby fields, residential neighborhoods, public parks, parking lots, and the short-range drone threats become much harder to detect or prevent. So, again, you've put a bullseye target on this board, on this bullseye target on this community, a bullseye target on the whole state. And for what reason? Because you want to have Los Alamos locate here to conduct their nuclear research and to bring all their, everything with it to bear. There's going to be armed security agents on that property. They're not going to allow people along the Huron River, for example, to penetrate what they believe to be their perimeter zone. They're going to have controlled vehicle checkpoints. They're going to have armed federal protective forces. They may need to install drone detection radar systems, even have restricted airspace. All these things are coming our way, and we don't have a right to have a conversation with anybody in a face-to-face meeting. And we have a county commissioner saying we're not being transparent. We have told the public everything that we know, that we have learned accidentally. We have people sending us information from New Mexico telling us that U of M and Los Alamos are going to proceed this way. Some of the information comes anonymously to the supervisor's office telling us this is going to happen and you're powerless to prevent it. And then when we ask the county board, can you stand by our side and help us fight this fight? We're told, well, we can't do anything about it anyways, so what do you want us to do about it? Anyways, a third of our board works for U of M, and we're not going to get our necks out there and make U of M mad at us when a third of us actually are employees there. So again, it comes back to, which side are you on? Which side are you on? And at some point in time, I'm afraid that the University of Michigan is going to make their decision any day, any time. They have that property under contract, 144 acres. It is divided by the only roadway that leads down into South Hydro Park, which is our nature preserve park down there. And they're going to control who is allowed to go onto that property, even if we object to it. And I haven't even mentioned tonight that in order to support those data centers, they're going to build on the corner of Bridge and Textile Roads a 110 megawatt DTE substation with an electrical switchyard. And everybody's seen those substations. Everybody knows how ugly those substations are. Everybody knows the amount of power that's needed to provide these data centers with the power. From what we've been told, even by DTE, the amount of electricity needed to power those data centers would be enough to power 80 to 120,000 homes, and it would be equal to the entire electrical output currently being utilized by the township in the remaining 32 square miles. So this one area is going to use electricity that's going to be equal to what the rest of the township combined uses. And yet you have DTE telling people, trust us, your rates are going to go down. Your rates are going up right now. And they haven't even built a data center. Your rates are going to continue to go up, and you're going to see traffic problems like you've never seen. They've shown what's happening in Saline Township right now. They are absolutely tearing those roads apart out there and building that data center in Saline Township. And yet, you have the state of Michigan opening the doors to these data centers. There's not one community that wants these data centers. They're opening the doors and saying, we'll give you such a sweetheart deal, such a tax break, that they've acted like the Godfather, making you an offer that you can't refuse. And they did. They made an offer that they can't refuse. That's why you have these data centers thinking this is a gold rush opportunity. And for many of them, it is. Because they're saving hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes. And then they're turning right around and taking our tax money and using $100 million of it to say that Los Alamos, come on over from New Mexico. We got a place for you. It won't be in Ann Arbor, and it won't be in other parts of the county, but we'll tuck it into Ypsilanti Township because they're marginalized anyways. What does it matter? They can't do anything about it because we have a county board that won't speak up on their behalf. We don't have Lansing speaking up on our behalf. We don't have the Congress speaking up on our behalf. In the meantime, we have U of M, Los Alamos, cutting every deal they possibly can with the Department of War. I never thought in my lifetime I would see a university of that stature basically they're supposed to stand for something. You have values. You have your pillars. You're willing to sell your soul to get rid of your diverse equity and inclusion program. You're willing to basically abandon a project to help those with marginalized backgrounds achieve a PhD in business and go on and basically take that out to their communities all around the state, the world. You're going to abandon those because you're being threatened by an administration that if you don't do this, you're going to somehow lose federal dollars. You're going to somehow lose the opportunity to do additional research projects. So you're willing to sell your soul to allow yourselves to continue to prosper. You're already the third wealthiest university in the country. They have an endowment fund of over $20 billion, but yet that's not enough. It never ceases to amaze me that people who have so much, it's never enough. It's never enough. And so right now, I don't know really what to tell this board beyond the fact that I know right now it's not a good look. It's not a good look to have perimeter enclosed with access checkpoints, have lights operating 24/7, to have this humming noise that goes on all the time, to have a substation and a grid that just scars the landmark, it destroys the natural ecosystem, it destroys the habitat, it basically destroys our parks, and you ask, well, what can we do? Well, we do have some strategies. I'm not going to disclose everything that we're thinking about pursuing, but I do think it's incumbent upon this board to continue to encourage everyone. We've talked about maybe having the need for a third public meeting, and maybe at some point in time in April, the board will consider maybe doing that, because we can't do any more than what we've done to get out the information to the public. I do know that these presentations are recorded and are placed on the township's audio as well as on the YouTube channel. I'm not saying people are going to flock to listen to what I have to say, but I will say right now that we're trying our best to make it available to those who do have an interest. And there are thousands of people out there that are very much interested in this fight. I've not met one person, whether you're in a CVS, Walgreens, gas station, restaurant, anywhere you go. Nobody wants these data centers, especially Los Alamos, to come to this township and bring with it the high-value target that is going to accompany that. So as I stated 2 weeks ago, right now, I had reservations then. My reservations have absolutely gone away in light of what we have seen happen in those 2 weeks. If they can take out data centers around the world with drones on Amazon, web services, cloud computing that controls financial, utilities, banking, etc., you can rest assured. And by the way, before I do close, there was another impact that just happened on Stryker. Stryker is a Michigan-based facility that was shut down because of a hacking that was occurred by Iran. And this Stryker is located in Portage, Michigan. And on March 11th, they reported that Portage-based Stryker Corporation suffered a massive cyber attack overnight that has shut down the medical device manufacturer systems, idling 56,000 employees worldwide, according to international reports and a statement from the hacker group. An Iranian-affiliated group took credit for the attack Wednesday morning, posting on X that it targeted the company in part out of retaliation for the brutal attack on the Manab school in Iran and threatened a new chapter in cyber warfare. Now, this is a large corporation that specializes in medical device systems. Now, can you imagine the value that it would bring to any group, bad actors, whatever label you want to put on people, if they could take out a Los Alamos high security system, Los Alamos laboratory that specializes in developing nuclear weaponry? We're basically inviting them to come to the township and to attack our community, and they are not even willing to share anything with us because they've made a deal. They made a deal with the Department of War. And they've given up certain things that supposedly they had values in, ensuring a diverse, educated student body. They've given up on that. In exchange, they're going to be rewarded with hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts and grants to continue to develop the next generation and nuclear weapons. There's something wrong with that picture. There's something wrong with our governor that supports that. There's something wrong with our leaders in Congress that don't stand up and help us fight this. And there's certainly something wrong with the country that would allow this to happen to a community. I guess we're close to 60,000 people now. But to have that happen to us on the banks of the Huron River, right near a hydroelectric dam. Michael Sarin is here tonight. He knows the danger of what would happen if there's something, if a drone hit that dam, the water would be unleashed and it would go down river right through Belleville. I'm not making this up. These are real threats that are clear and present danger. And to ignore what's happening in the world today, to somehow think it won't happen here, is basically trying to convince yourself that bad news will not travel here. It will. Mark my words, if that facility is built anywhere in this township, it's going to be subject to an attack. And there's no other way to say that because we're living in dangerous times. And this Mideast conflict will not be the last conflict that you will see happen in our lifetime again, in which drones are going to be used to try and destroy data centers in general, and especially ones that are developing nuclear weapons. So I don't mean to be so harsh tonight in my tone, but I think we've done all we can do. We're all getting kind of tired of having the same arguments with the same people with the same results. And at this point in time, I'll let the board ask any questions they have of myself in regards to what I said this evening. I spent hours and hours and hours reading everything about these data centers, about Los Alamos, why the township would be a tier 1 security target. And it's again because of the technology. It's because of the computational modeling. It's because of the computer technology. And when I did not appreciate at the moment when Chris Kolb said that they were going to have the biggest, baddest, and fastest computers in the world, I didn't recognize at that moment what that really meant in terms of national security. Now I do. And those words alone frighten me to the point where I know that anywhere that facility goes in this township, it's going to constitute a clear and present danger.
Thank you, Mr. Winters. Are there any comments from Trustee Rowe?
Thank you, Doug. It's very comprehensive. When you read the research on those plutonium pits, they're like, they call it a pit, but it's like a bowling ball, and they're on all the nuclear warheads. And a lot of the things, like you can just Google it, there's so many articles, and there's a big fight about whether we even need them. And some people think it's just a way to expand our nuclear arsenal, which you're not supposed to be doing. You know, we're supposed to be controlling that, because they say all the ones that were developed, you know, from the 1950s through the 1980s, that some scientists say that they'll last for 80 to 100 years. And so there's a lot of scientists that are saying we don't even need them. And then there's all the issues with why you don't want to build anymore. You know, all the waste and the danger, blah, blah, blah. But to me, it's like, it's so insane that if you are going to build more plutonium pits, or if you're just doing the research, which I think Doug is absolutely right, that is critical. Like they're saying they're going to do that now with these logarithms and all this stuff on the computer. They have the data now, or the capability now through AI and everything to do that using the computers at these high-end data centers. That why don't you do that data center where you're going to build the plutonium pits? One's in South Carolina and one's in New Mexico. I tell you why, to me, this is why. I mean, because we all said from the beginning, no one could understand it. Why? This makes no sense from a million different checklists. But U of M, their whole thing about this biggest, baddest, fastest, Doug, you're right. It's about the biggest, baddest, fastest Los Alamos. It's not about we're going to do it as a research thing to make our lives better, and we're going to be healthier, and they're going to help us with spam and all these kinds of crazy things we're dealing with. I believe now that it was a front, and that U of M, they could build that one that they want to build for themselves anywhere, and they could build that in Ann Arbor, because they're saying that's only 20 acres, and they got a lot of 20-acre, closer to the campus. But I think they really wanted to do, because of Los Alamos, and they know the city of Ann Arbor would have never no one else would tolerate that, They would fight that with everything and we're doing it too. But they thought that we would be an easy target that, they'll put it in there, they don't, we're just a bunch of poor, brown and black and dumb hillbillies sitting over here, and we don't know nothing. I really think that that's why. And because Los Alamos, because of the nonprofit and being able to not pay any taxes. The other data centers have a million things that are wrong with them, the water and stuff, but at least they're $37 billion operations. At least those communities are going to get taxes. And that's why Governor Gretchen, Jeff Irwin and them said it last night. I watched the tape. I didn't know about the meeting. Thank you, Brenda, for going, and Gloria and Larisha for going. I didn't know anything about it, but not that I would have been able to go because I'm taking care of a bunch of grandkids now. But anyways, I watched it. And Jeff Irwin and Justin Hodges, they made it clear at that thing, and it just upset me even more. They're having meetings with U of M. We've been trying to have meetings, and here we have our state senator and he's the chair of the board, but anyways, he's our county commissioner. They're actually talking to U of M, which that showed me that's why we're being thank you. Undermined because they're over there, and what they're doing is they're saying, it's going to go there anyways, so why don't you do this and this and this, instead of going to U of M and using their political power and strength that we gave them. Now, Justin Hodges is Ypsilanti Township's county commissioner. We had three, him, Sanders, and Andy Somerville. And Justin Irwin is our state senator, who he's term limited, so he probably don't care. But I did understand that he wants to get a big highfalutin job in the county, and we need to make sure that don't happen for someone who's not standing up for our county. It's not just us, it's for all of, it's not just Ypsilanti Township. And several people at the West Willow meeting last night said that. They were from Superior and other places. This is a statewide, this is a national issue. And just because Trump said, because there's a lot of literature on that, he said he wanted those plutonium P1s 80 produced a year. And all the scientists are saying, are you crazy? They've produced one since he said that in his first term in office. They produced one from 1980s and that was produced in 2024, one. But yet, that's the move. And it's the oligarchs and all the rich companies and stuff. We're just caught in that. Because there's all this money to be made. That research that U of M is doing and not paying no taxes, or that they're planning on doing at our place, if that's what they're going to do, is all that research and Los Alamos here. They're doing that to sell that to produce those things, and those aren't produced by the American public. We don't make the profit off of our own bombs. Those are war companies making that, and it's just all about making some more money for a bunch of people that already got more money than they even know. I mean, the rich, this is going to make the richer rich and rich, because those are all political folks' friends. And the same thing about here. That is the most insane thing to say, that you can't vote, well then resign. If you can't vote on a major issue that affects your county, your townships, your state, then you don't belong on the county board of commissioner. But it is not. We have been through it a million times. We're not, they think everybody's ignorant, but people have been through it. We've had attorneys and stuff, because we've taken saying that we can't vote because there's a conflict of interest. The law is very clear. If it's going to my brother or something I'm voting on here, and my brother's gonna make money, I still gotta vote, because I'm not making money. My family's not. I only get a chance to not vote on a township issue or a county issue when I personally am gonna make money. So that's an outright lie that Justin Hodges is saying, that all those people that work for U of M on the county board of commissioners can't vote because it doesn't make any sense, because they can't vote anyways. That's just not true. And the fact that I was just so upset last night that they've been meeting with U of M on our issue, and we don't even know about it. One of the residents there was really good. I don't know who it was. Maybe you're here tonight. Some of the Westville people I know, because I couldn't see or hear the names. I could just hear the voice. Said, but it was so great. They called him out. They said, you need to take these people with you. You need to take Supervisor Stumbo with you. Why are you going over there and talking to people? They're going over there and talking in secret because they don't want us. They're part of, they're a huge part of the problem. So I'd say I'm not ready to give up. Annie Somerville, Justin Hodges, and what's the Sanders' first name? Caroline Sanders are 3 Ypsilanti Township County Commissioners. Those are 3 more people that you can write to, you can email, you can telephone, you can get on the Zoom meeting tomorrow night and talk, or you can go over there at the County Board of Commissioners and tell them they need to stand up for Ypsilanti Township. That's who elected them. And we won't forget, even though I know that's, 2 more years away before they're ever going to run for office, but it's just really, really upsetting. And there's no doubt that us being that, if they build that here and that being the key, Los Alamos key, high level defense computations, trying to figure out whether it's the drones or whether it's, how to build these nuclear weapons, these plutonium pits in a better way, easier way, whatever it is, it's going to be #1 on their target because it's #1 on Trump and all those warmongers and war machine people and all those companies. This is it. This is the big kahuna. It is. And that's why they've been so secretive. It's not about U of M's data thing. There's no reason. It's about Los Alamos. That's what it is. Now we know it's off. They can't hide it anymore. And I just want to say thanks, Doug. And I don't know, I'd say keep writing to the Board of Regents too. I know, because they're the ones that make the final decision. They're the ones that can stop this right now. But and I'm again just want to go on record as saying, with Los Alamos, I don't believe that we should have that anywhere in Ypsilanti Township because of what that's going to bring. It doesn't matter if it's at ACM or if it's here. It was different before we found out that there was going to be that high-level Department of War investment here, and we don't need it. And a lot of scientists are saying, of course, people are afraid to stand up because when you do, you get your throat cut around, by all the politicians around, and you lose your money, which is why U of M did it. They want to stay the richest or 3rd richest university in the nation, and so they're dancing the dance to whatever the powers that be are telling them, whether it's DEI, diversity programs, or whether it's transgender programs, they've cut the funding on those, or whether it's come on, bring the nuclear bombs here. You can do it here. We don't care because we want U of M to keep getting all the grants they can from the powers to be. So.
Any other comment, Board Member? Trustee Lovejoy Roy, I agree with you. And yeah, we might be tired, but we're not done. We're not done. And there are legal strategies that we're trying. And I did attend that meeting with Trustee Peterson and Larisha Thornton at the West Willow meeting, neighborhood association meeting, and it was on Facebook, and I went, and I'm really glad. And I'm really glad I went because our residents, even the visitors, they were from City, from Superior, from Belleville, they were from all over. It is universal that no one wants data centers. I mean, I don't know anyone that's raising their hand, put one here, put one here. No one's doing that. From a legal standpoint, as we discussed at the meeting, and Saline Township found out, you can't zone them out. It's just, it's a Michigan, I guess the Michigan legislature could possibly. Yeah, and you can't have exclusionary zoning. We've tried it in the past, it didn't work. So a lot of people are, not that it would matter because U of M is exempt from every planning and zoning ordinance that we have. They get approved, they go through the state of Michigan for some of their Eagle permits, and the fire marshal can review it. And when this started, it was 20 acres at the corner of Textile and Bridge Road. It was 2 office buildings. That's how it was described to me and Representative Jimmy Wilson on a Zoom call before it was announced. It was 200 jobs on site that paid $200,000 a year. That is how it was presented. Now, that doesn't sound too bad to a community on 20 acres. And then what we have found out is it's just like a slow drip of information, is they were simultaneously negotiating, purchasing another 120 acres. We found out that Los Alamos was a defensive war. We had absolutely no idea. Our residents are the ones that brought it to our attention first by coming to our meetings. And then we started listening and researching what they did. And last night, it's how do you mitigate the sound? That was something, and every time we get in groups and we learn information, that's what I love about learning something new every day from our residents, from experts. But this was a woman who graduated from University of Michigan. She was, I think, an opera singer. And she actually imitated the sound of one of those data centers. One was a high tone, one was a low tone. And it affected children greatly. They could hear it better than adults at a certain tone. But there are residual effects on community. And what she said is it was a mile out. And she said there's experts that can help our defense on this to determine about how do you mitigate these sounds. So had I not gone to that meeting, I would have never learned that. Our residents asked great questions. It was determined at the end. Trustee Peterson contacted me, and one of the residents told me that make a list of our questions and then submit them to the University of Michigan to the Board of Regents, and see if we can get some answers. We actually need, the University of Michigan needs to come and have a public meeting and answer questions for people. And what they had at the Marriott was more of like a science fair. If you could get in, there's a board and you could ask questions about that board, then you went to the next board. It really was an interactive or open forum where residents contribute. We have great, smart residents who know this area better than they do. And for them not to care about us at all, Karen, like you pointed out, they don't care. And I do believe this has been a master plan for many years in which we knew nothing about it. And how the governor, our state representatives, our county commissioners can't stand up and say no to Los Alamos, that's beyond my comprehension. After the war started, that's what even made it a higher level target. And sometimes you make mistakes as elected officials, and you regret it, and you come back and you say, we could have done that better. This is one of those times, I think, where elected officials at the state level should say, we may have made a mistake. I think they're regretting it on the data centers and how they pushed it through. And I do believe we have the power of the people on this issue. So we're not going to stop. And don't you stop. And we'll do it together. We'll have more meetings. It was suggested that we do a mailer on it so that residents know who they can email or write a letter to. Some people don't want to email, or just make communication to the Board of Regents. The power lies with the Board of Regents right now, because the state gave the $100 million to the University of Michigan, and it lies with the Board of Regents. So we'll keep pushing, you keep pushing as we get more information. It's been painful to learn the things that we've learned. If they would have just had a meeting, they know what they're doing, I agree. And they've known it from the beginning. So let's continue. Doug, thank you for the update and for all the research on it, because we're not going to give up. I just want our people to know that. I want the community, I want our neighbors to know that. The neighbors that were in Superior Town, they said, we had no idea that it was a Department of War that was Los Alamos. No knowledge whatsoever. And it really doesn't get in the papers either, if you notice that. It's the the blogs and the, not like MLive or Ann Arbor News or Detroit News. They don't.
That Planet Place
Planet,
in Detroit covers
yeah.
that. Yeah, it's awesome.
It's just, it's interesting, and I said it last night, and I'll say it tonight. I've never dealt with a developer, because to me they're developers, or an entity that has so much power as the University of Michigan. They reach, their tentacles are so far-reaching, but I do think we're making a difference. I do feel like we're making a difference. We just got to keep doing it, and keep doing it, and keep doing it. So thank you, everyone, for attending last night and for coming today and listening to us. If you go to our website, we have all the information, all the YouTube videos. The attorney's report update is at every meeting is also on that as well.
Brenda, I had a question.
Yes, trustee.
Also on there is the email addresses to contact your state reps and the Board of Regents and stuff. The township, Brenda, who's ever doing that is doing a good job on that. I had a question because I know all the land they're proposing to be bought by U of M, but DT is going to build on there if it happens. So do they become nonprofit too and don't have to pay taxes on their substation and their?
It probably depends on who owns it, Doug.
I mean, who knows?
My position, UTE would pay taxes. I don't know how they can get around that.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know if U of M owned the land, they'd have some way out of that. So another slick white thing. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, so I just
Sultan.
wanted to thank you, Attorney Winters, for pointing out the transparency part. Like, that's a mystery to me, how someone could say that we are not being transparent. Like, we're not holding the cards. So I don't understand how that could be sent from another elected official who represents us, because what are we not being transparent about? We're not buying the property. Like, we're not, we don't have the plans for the building. Like, that part I just don't understand. There was an urging for residents to contact us and say, to ask us what like, none of us have signed a non-disclosure agreement, and I'm not suggesting that the county has, but I don't know when, just tell us if you're thinking we're elected to serve some of the same residents. If you feel like we're not telling somebody something, or you've heard something, tell us what that is. We've got a website. The attorney, we've been talking about this since August at almost every single meeting. I don't know what that could be. We're not the builders of it. I don't know what that means. We're not keeping information from people. We're trying to make sure that people know. But U of M can do pretty much what they want to do. That is the truth. And that was even said from the board table. But when somebody says you're not being completely transparent with the people that you serve, if you know that, say it. What are we not being transparent about? Because that's a mystery to me. And even residents at the meeting, it sounds like, could see right away where you're talking to somebody else, but you're not talking to Supervisor Stumbo or other people. So I would just urge, I don't want to put residents in the middle of that or throw that out there, but I don't know what that means when someone says we're not being, we're not telling everybody that you should check in with us, because that's, from my seat, what I've seen, that's not what I've seen. We are surprised at the minimal meetings or things when we've gone to something. Sometimes we're learning things from residents or envelopes that mysteriously come from New Mexico. That's how we're getting little tidbits of information. No one's telling us clearly what's going on.
Thank you.
I have something to say. I'll go to the website, the Ypsi Township, and so the recordings are not staying up there. They're not staying up. You can only do the most recent ones. So, but when I did go on the YouTube, I did see all of them on there. But on your website, they're not all up there. It's only the last one was March 3rd. That's the only one up that I could find on the website. The recordings of the meeting, the agenda is on the paper. Agenda is on there, but not the actual recording. It's only from March 3rd. and it actually says most recent recording or whatnot. But when you said YouTube, I did go on YouTube, and they all are on YouTube, but they're not all on your website, just the most recent one.
Thank you for letting me know. I'll find out. We will go to, under new business, Resolution 2026-02, Owners Dam Safety Program. Clerk Swanson?
Yep. Resolution number 2026-02, Owners Dam Safety Program, ODSP. Whereas the Charter Township of Ypsilanti in Washtenaw County, Michigan, currently holding a license with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, to operate the Ford Lake Hydroelectric Project, project number 5334, and whereas the FERC requires the Charter Township of Ypsilanti to develop, implement, fund, and continue to support the ODSP per the FERC guideline for the project until such time that the Charter Township of Ypsilanti releases ownership or the project is no longer under the jurisdiction of the FERC. And whereas the ODSP document clearly defines the responsibility for the Charter Township of Ypsilanti and its employees and consultants, and whereas the purpose of this resolution is not new to the Charter Township of Ypsilanti, but rather a rededication to dam safety and the responsibilities that come with owning the project, and whereas by the action of this document, the Charter Township of Ypsilanti is showing the commitment to the FERC to operate a safe project, prioritizing safety over any other goals, and now therefore be it resolved that the Charter Township of Ypsilanti Board of Trustees acknowledges the owner's dam safety program to maintain compliance with the FERC and define the role of Charter Township of Ypsilanti related to the project. So moved.
Support.
Motion Swanson, support Eldridge. Questions or comments? I know Michael is here.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. The resolution in front of you is our annual resolution that we do as compliance with the FERC, which is the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Although a small project, we still treat it as it's a big project. So we are a small group in the hydro department, but the support is through the township board, the accounting department, the fire department, parks and grounds, and recreation. Because of our operating license, all these departments are kind of embedded in our operating license. So this part is just one component of a big project. So with the resolution, that helps us define our roles to provide a safe and ongoing project so we can maintain safety for our community and our neighbors.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I was just trying to find out about the additional videos on the website. John, you said they were under more? Is that correct? I just want to make sure. I want to give out the information for our residents if you have it. I clicked on it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the videos, they do link to the YouTube page where you have the agenda and packet, minutes, audio, this more button. If you click it, the video is linked under additional documents. Oh, there you go.
And are the previous ones there as well?
Yeah, everything up through 2026 is on there.
All right. See if that works.
More.
I just wanted to confirm that. I shouldn't get distracted, I apologize. We have a motion and support, all in favor?
Aye.
I already voted, but yeah.
Sorry.
What was your, did we vote on it?
Yeah, we voted twice. We had a double vote.
Okay. I got distracted trying to find them, no. Budget amendment number 4, clerk's.
Yep. Motion to amend the 2026 budget number 4, move to increase the general fund budget by $368,071 to $13,022,064 and approve the department line item changes as outlined. Move to increase the law enforcement fund budget by $1,614 to $9,963,648 and approve the department line item changes as outlined. So moved.
Support.
Motion Swanson, support Eldridge. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Under authorizations and bids, we have number 1 to seek sealed bids for a new audiovisual system for the senior program in rooms 202 and 204.
So moved, Peterson.
Support Rowe.
Motion Peterson, support Rowe. These will come back to the board. Josh, would you like to?
Yes, thank you. Josh Kugler, Recreation Services Manager. Yes, so with this, we are requesting to seek bids for our upgrade to our audiovisual for the 50 and Beyond program as part of the senior millage. Once these bids are opened on April 2nd, we will then bring those back to the board for approval.
Great. We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 2 is to accept the bid from Varsity Ford of Ann Arbor for the purchase of 1 new Ford F-350 Super Duty crew cab for $51,462.68, which is budgeted.
So moved.
Motion Rowe,
Support Peterson.
support Peterson. Questions or comment? There were 4 bids and Varsity Ford was the lowest bid. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 3 is to accept the bid from Varsity Ford Ann Arbor for the purchase of 1 new Ford F-350 Transit van for $68,975.92, which is budgeted.
So moved.
Motion Eldridge,
Support Peterson.
support Peterson. Questions or comment? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 4 is to accept the bid from Partner Haas Commercial Interiors for the purchase and installation of furniture for the 14B District Court for $101,399.36, which is budgeted.
So moved.
Motion Eldridge,
Support Peterson.
support Peterson. April's here.
I'm here if anybody has any questions. This is just part of our renovation grant that we received. We're at the tail end of it, and we are looking to wrap up with this and a couple other items that we've been talking about.
Questions or comments? Great job on closing this grant up eventually, right?
We're close.
It was a great grant. We do appreciate it, though. $5 million for the renovation of the court. We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is public comments. If you go to the microphone, and 3 minutes per person, and we will hear the comments. We really don't make comments. We just hear them. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to say that I love the board's comments about being, like I share a lot of fears about being associated with the Department of War and stop the data center. And I think that we can learn from other communities in the ways that they have stopped data centers. China, Michigan stopped a data center by passing a health ordinance about the sound issue that Brenda brought up. I know that U of M doesn't necessarily have to follow ordinances, but they did say that they intended to follow ordinances, whatever. So that's like one thing to consider. Also for like long-term health of the township, these like undertones and overtones have a lot of really serious health implications for a huge variety of people. Another thing that I think, another like strategy that could be considered is something that Councilmember Rowe actually brought up, that like having a moratorium on a specific thing that the data center needs. So, U of M is like totally above the law, but is DTE. What if we had a moratorium on substations until we learned about the harmonics of the electricity and how that's impacted by data centers? I am not an electricity sort of guy, but I have learned that the way that data centers use electricity impacts the entire grid in really detrimental ways. And DTE is already famous for having bad harmonics, which like harmonics is like sort of like the quality of electricity. Like, I'm not going to try to explain it because I'll explain it poorly, but that's like having a moratorium on new DTE substations until there's more research that can be done about harmonics is something that like could stand up and isn't specifically singling out data centers, but is a particular bad impact of data centers. And like having a moratorium on heavy construction on the roads, like heavy construction equipment on the roads leading to the data center site, things like that. But yeah, no data center anywhere. And I am excited to I think that it's going to be scary and hard to stand up to the University of Michigan. It's true, they're very powerful, and we just need to be creative, and we need to be strong, and we need to block them at every step of the way.
Thank you. May I have your name?
Could we get your name for the record?
Sarah.
Township resident, Sarah?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, Erica Tebbins, Ypsi Township. I agree with all of that, and I was very heartened to hear everything that you all said tonight in the update on the data center. I was also at that recent commissioners meeting, and the thing I said to them, so I know that it was mentioned that they were going to be voting on whether the data center kind of would exist or not, but really that it was more specifically if it would be moved to ACM or not, which I know is also what the verbiage says on the Ypsi Township page currently. And I think especially in light of what Attorney Winters was saying tonight and Trustee Lovejoy-Rowe, is that I do think that for many reasons that the strategy should be, no data center anywhere going forward. I realize, I understand that we have a lot of challenges because of the constitutional dilemma here, but I say, if we're going to lose anyway at some point, I hope we won't. I feel very confident and optimistic, but let's swing for the fences, right? Let's not just burden one community in the township and say, we don't want it here at this park, which obviously nobody wants it at the park, but also it's not fair to burden another part of our community with it either, even if that is just in pure verbiage and it never actually comes to pass. I think it's still, we already feel less than by U of M, so let's not make another segment of our community feel also less than. I think going forward, kind of to your point, Supervisor Stumbo, about folks recognizing that a mistake was made and changing direction and changing course going forward, I think going forward, we should be a unified front. There's a lot of us that are in the fight, are going to continue the fight. More people, as they know, will also get in the fight with us. But I think that there's a lot of talent and passion that if we are a unified force collectively against no data center, there is a lot of people power, as has been said tonight, and that is a really positive, hopeful thing. Two final quick things I wanted to point out about their crappy open house. They did actually hire the sheriff's deputies to be there, so they do actually, treat us like stupid, horrible criminals. They hired extra police force to be on site, in case we were bad people. And I do have a list of all the articles that have been written on this if anyone wants it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ryan, Ypsi Township resident, and I just wanted to come here today to For one thing, thank you for listening to your residents. I know back in the summer, we were still kind of trying to get you this information and convince you that this was a bad idea, and it sounds like you are now on board that this is a bad idea, which is awesome. I want to also make it clear that I agree with the previous speaker that doing that at ACM is also bad. We really don't want this anywhere, and it sounds like some of you are in agreement about that, and I appreciate that. We don't want this anywhere in our township. I don't want it anywhere in Michigan. I don't want it anywhere at all. So I think anywhere it goes, it will be harmful. Someone forgot to start my timer, so I'm not sure where my time is, but I'll,
It didn't start, so I'm trying to watch it.
But I want you to urge you to keep fighting this. The University of Michigan is very powerful. They have a lot of ways to work around the rules, but we're smart and creative, and you have the people behind you backing you. Be creative and don't give up. Keep fighting this.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Holly, and I'm also a resident of Ypsi Township. And I want to go on record saying my opposition to the idea of moving the data center to the American Center for Mobility. I have a very deep, intimate relationship with the flora and fauna at South Hydro Park. I think Rawsonville Elementary School deserves to be a safe place with no data center sounds. It would be horrible to me if the data center was built in South Hydro Park, but it is just as bad for it to be at ACM. ACM is just as much a part of our earth as South Hydro Park is, and the things that they will use that data center for are just as evil if it's at ACM or if it's at South Hydro. And so the demand from the community and the residents is that there's no data center anywhere in Ypsi Township, and of course, hopefully nowhere at all. I am a third generation peace activist. I'm a third generation anti-nuclear weapons activist. I have attended the Regents meetings, I've attended these meetings, I've attended the county commission meetings. We've sent hundreds of postcards to more than 15 different entities demanding that they stop the data center. We are a campaign with so much energy, so much love, so much commitment. We will be fighting this data center, and we want you to be fighting it right alongside us. One thing I would like to see in terms of us getting on the same page and being a unified force against this data center is a real consistency in what we're hearing from the township board about the data center. I don't know what's going on in Hodge's mind. I have no special insight into the county commission, but the resolution that they were considering voting on was requesting that U of M move it to ACM. So a bunch of us showed up and said, no, we don't want you to ask them to move it to ACM. That implies that it being built at all is fine. It's not okay. And I believe that that's part of why they didn't vote on the resolution, is that we said asking for it to go to ACM gives U of M cover. So I would like to see consistency on the part of the township board to say ACM is not acceptable, we don't want this anywhere. I would like to see an open letter written to the regents and to Gretchen Whitmer, and I think it would be great if the county commissioners got on board. I will get them. I will talk to them for you, and you're going to talk to them too. But the township board, the commissioners, Jimmy Wilson, and as many other entities as possible in an open letter saying no data center anywhere. U of M's vulnerability is in their reputation, so we need to make them look as bad as possible. I really appreciate, Stumbo, everything that you've done in news articles showing how bad U of M has been. This is great. We should continue making them look bad, and the DTE substation zoning could be a really good avenue. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, cool. Good evening, everyone. My name is Akeem. I'm an Ypsilanti Township resident. And one common thing I was hearing as we were discussing around the data center is like, what can we do? And I know Trustee Lovejoy Roy brought up a great point. Supervisor Stumbo, even Attorney Winters, you brought up a great point. And one thing is, how do we begin to look at the root cause? And we were talking around, who are these elected officials? And I say all this because one thing is, how do we get younger folks civically engaged, and how do we get folks who are representative of the communities that they come from who can really speak to issues. So I say all that because we are using something within the West Willow neighborhood, a garden, and we're talking about zoning. And we've shown how community can work with Township. John, who was amazing with the park, Brenda as well, so some of the trustees, in regards to engaging with community, engaging with youth, and getting them civically engaged. And one thing that we do within West Willow is work with youth, but we do it in a very interesting way where we use some of our elders. And some of our elders are here today. We would have some of our youth, but they're a little bit tired because they were just at the E-Course corridor listening session being civically engaged in that matter. But I say all this because I don't know if y'all received it earlier this morning, but there was a memo sent out to you around zoning for a garden, which essentially is an outdoor educational space that we're utilizing to share these topics, but in an conventional way, around getting civically engaged, learning from our elders, learning from folks who are here to share that information. So please, I would love to meet with folks to further contextualize what it means to have a space outside of meeting in a room when you're out in environment or when you're just out in nature and talking around these similar issues. So please, I invite you, and I will also follow up individually with that packet again that shows a little bit more context and also that memo to talk around what it can look like. And I do appreciate, I don't think Mark is here, but I do appreciate Mark for responding, and we do look forward to meeting with him and talk around what it could look like to have a conversation, that transparency around what can we do collectively. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for everything that you and your father do with the youth and the intergenerational programs that you've had in West Willow. They're much appreciated.
Hi, my name is Rita. I'm an Ypsilanti Township resident, and I'm an employee of the University of Michigan. I believe the first time I spoke, I talked about how I would much rather commit to the place that I live in and my neighbors than lose my job in order to speak out against this. And I appreciate how this board has continued to listen and evolve its stance on it. I believe the first time we were talking about Ypsilanti Township actually has used significantly less water than we used to after 2020. So it raised our water rates, and the YCUA representative at the time was actually the data, we have the water to support this infrastructure. And I appreciate that coming here tonight, I was surprised pleasantly about how these things have changed as you have learned more information, and that you're listening to the residents, that you're also expressing that reciprocal appreciation. And I want to also echo that I don't want a data center anywhere. And I think I recognize that when Supervisor Stumbo said no one's raising their hand saying they want a data center here, because collectively we are smart enough to understand that this is not good regardless of where you locate it. And I think the last point that I want to raise is that the fight is not over, and the Constitution can change. I used to work for Pittsfield Township, and I was hired in January 2019 when we changed the Constitution to allow universal absentee voting, right? So there are ways where the Michigan residents can put together something. If everyone's if no one's raising their hand saying they want a data center, and U of M is claiming that the Constitution protects them and allows them to impose this thing that no one wants in the state, I think the Constitution is a living document that all the residents, if we just draw attention to the fact that the Constitution has changed plenty of times in my own short life, that we can maybe work on this avenue as well. I think that's a appropriate thing to raise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Connie, and I'm from West Willow, a resident. And I also work with our Healthy Together program with West Willow. We're working with Keem and Bamboo with their intergenerational program. And so I would like to talk about two things briefly. One, definitely not in favor of the data center being anywhere in Ypsi. Just as Brenda did notice, all of the negativity that can happen with sound that can affect young people, there's also a lot of negativity that can affect the seniors. So you have the young people that are being affected negatively with the data center, and of course the seniors. And it affects seniors with asthma. It can cause asthma. There's mold that's coming in the water right now from water that's been happening in West Willow since the 1940s. And so with all the issues that we presently have, we just don't need additional situations to cause problems for young people or seniors. And so as our attorney has so eloquently stated, you know, why do we want to put more havoc on a community that's already experiencing more than their share of havoc? As far as Akeem was saying, we definitely feel as though the garden that was established in honor of Linda Mealing is worthy of being there. And we would like to have any reservations to remove it be reconsidered, because it is an avenue of conversation. It is an avenue of communicating with our young, having our young have a participation in our seniors. So I know there's some conversation going on about that, but we do want to have some reconsideration for that garden to continue to exist. So that's basically it. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
and we
Connie.
really appreciate the support that the township is giving. It is critical and mandatory that you have the stance that you have. And I do feel that our commissioners need to have a stronger stance as for supporting us, not just saying, okay, we're going to get it here. We might as well accept that. Let's see what we can get to accommodate the residents, because they're going to have to deal with that. Why? Why do we have to deal with that? Why? Thank you.
Thank you, Connie.
Can I have those 32 seconds? Okay, no. Hello, good evening. My name is Joanne McCollum. I live in West Willow in Ypsilanti Township. I'm asking the board to work with Odini Youth Action Village to keep their community garden in West Willow, the Linda Mealing Garden. There are very good reasons to have a community garden run by the community. One of the reasons is the Opportunity Index that was performed in 2025 by the Washington Office for Community and Economic Development. The Opportunity Index pinpoints areas with limited opportunity to help with direct resources to those areas to foster greater equity for all residents of Washington County. In all 5 areas, health, job access, education and training, economic well-being, and community, West Willow came in the lowest of them all on the index. The Odini Youth Action Village is helping to give resources to the 48198, 48197 zip code. They're helping with the youth, seniors, and families by providing a community garden to help improve the health of the community. These shared spaces empower residents to cultivate fresh, nutritious produce, reduce environmental footprints through sustainable practices, and beautify the neighborhood. They also offer physical exercise, stress reduction, and educational opportunities. So I ask the board to work with us to help enrich the West Willow community by making sure our community garden goes further. To me, this falls in line with what we're talking about tonight, about the data centers. We don't want the data centers biased because of health reasons. Well, we want to continue working with the garden for our health. We want to comply with the township ordinances, which I wish U of M would, but you know, that's how it is. But we want to comply with them, but we need your help. We need you to help us to do what we need to do for a healthy neighborhood, to help our youth. It also, I read something very interesting, that having a community garden decreases crime, because you have people doing something healthy, socializing, doing something positive. So help us to get our health in our neighborhood and join with us. And just like with the data center, join with us to do good things for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Are there any other public comments?
Jeremy Haley, Township resident, just reminding everybody that there is going to be 2 U of M regents on the ballot this November. So as you think about U of M and the data centers, go on the ballot and say, do you want to go with the same, or do you actually want to try something different? So I'd say think outside the box. And I live in the Nancy subdivision, and I noticed I wasn't able to pick up my leaves outside, along the curb. Whose responsibility is that? Is it the residents to pick up the leaves outside the curb?
We have a street sweeper that comes 3 times a year, but most residents do it in front of their house.
I got to say, where I live, about 90% of the people didn't. This last fall I couldn't because I was in physical rehab. Otherwise I would. But with this last amount of rain we had, at the end of the street, it couldn't drain because every drain was covered with massive amounts of leaves. And I know you pay for the street sweeping service, but if they have to keep going over the street over and over to get all the leaves that people left over, we pay for that every time, don't we?
Yes, we pay for the street sweeper.
But if they have to keep doing it excessively over and over because all amount of the leaves left in the things, I'm just asking,
We need to clean out the drains, I'm thinking.
No, you come through the Nancy subdivision, you'll see along the curbs, there's big piles where people actually pulled out above the drains and shoved them in the yard. There's piles of leaves people just left along the curb. That's what I'm asking, is if you can take some more initiative as the township to make sure people do that. Because it causes problems with the drains, and Nancy subdivision has problems with the drains anyway. So, other thing, how many county sheriffs are we paying for? 35? And how many are we getting?
Depends on what week it is. The last update was 29 out of, we contract for 35, and we're up to 29 now.
How long has that been going on for?
2018 for sure, yeah.
Can the residents of the township file something against the sheriff's county to get any of that money back?
Well, we don't, we won't, we will, in the past was reimbursed for the vacancies, and they made it right. Now the new sheriff doesn't actually bill you unless there's a deputy that's hired and assigned. So we
how
only
does that
pay
work?
for what we have. Even though we want 35, we only have to pay for 29.
I'm just asking because in the taxes, it pays for a certain amount, right?
The taxes are for police, yes.
Yeah, and it pays for 35, but we're not getting 35. So the money that she doesn't charge, does the township get back?
Yes, it'll come back to the township and goes back into the fund balance.
All right, that's what I was asking. Thank you.
Yeah, and we actually reduced it this year because we had a larger fund balance. We actually reduced that millage because of that. All right, is there any other business?
I just had a question.
Board member comment?
But is Erica still here? Can you send those, that compiled, you said you had a copy of all those yet? Yeah. Probably all the board members will like them. I've read them, but it'd be nice to have them all in one place. Thanks.
We have some of them on our website, but I don't know if we have everyone that you have.
I mean, I may have missed a few here and there, but I've been trying to keep up on it as they come out.
Great. Gloria, did you?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to tell the board, Brenda and I went to the Sheets opening. They were very gracious to the township. They wanted us to tell you they are so happy to be employed. There's 30 employees. They will get benefits after 60 days. Very nice company. I also want to thank Attorney Williams for all the legal assistance for this new development. But they are so happy, and they were very, very gracious and kind.
Yeah.
So they wanted to thank the board for the approval of the new development in Ypsilanti Township.
Thank you, and I was just notified that the website does have the information on it. So we're good to go on the website. Thank you for bringing that question, though. We appreciate those. Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Motion Elders, support Rowe. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 7:46. Thank you, everyone.
Did you go Monday? Some people